Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good middle of the night. Wherever you're at, good. Keep it that way. What's happening? This is another episode of the Sanity Trance. Apologies for the gap taking a little bit longer than I thought it would on posting and stuff. I tend to kind of just do whatever I want whenever, so it's like in this situation, I felt like I needed to be doing more for the rate I was going. And I got trapped by a video block, It is a form of writer's block because I was trying too hard on certain footage, trying to edit it in a way that was over my head still. So I was getting too caught up in that, and it was pushing me past deadlines and stuff because I really cared about that. And I guess it fell off of balance because it was like, at what point did the editing of higher level stuff mean more than the ability to create the episode, to really get the message out sooner? It really a cool little interesting debate you can have with yourself over like how much you matter and how much the rest of the world matters. And you're in a good spot if you found the intersection of selfishness and selflessness, because somehow you can find that little paradoxical point where it's like everything and nothing are the exact same thing, kind of somehow in this little point of relativity. So I like that. Let me make sure everything's working. I'm worried. Okay, we're good. Yeah, I was just seeing like no levels on my volume indicators here. My audio level stuff, it just looks like a flat line. I was like, is this even going through? Anyway, now I wanted to talk about the idea of cogs, for lack of a better way to say it. I know a lot of people are going through things in their life where they feel like they are doing the same old day-to-day thing, and it doesn't matter how crazy everything is, after a while it'll become a process that you become autonomous to. You start just operating under the process the same old way, the same methodologies, the same kind of thinking behind it. Not much changes from day to day. And as that goes on, that's decades for some people, I won't say lifetimes because I feel like life's deeper than that. But life is so deep that, yeah, lifetimes. There's people who definitely have been either avoiding their thought patterns that they could change, or not not noticing them at all. This stuff is so under the radar because it goes without saying so hard. And that's why I like talking about a lot of these things, is because like that aspect in itself is kind of a hidden demon of creativity, or a doorway that we all got to go through. It's like a rite of passage or something. But that that's then there's the people who have noticed these kind of things. And even if you notice these patterns, sometimes there's nothing you can do to get out of it. And it drives people crazy. And it used to drive me crazy too. It's like I'd be working jobs and going to classes that I felt that I had no part participating in. I had no business being a part of whatever was going on. And my body could feel it. It was like I would be, I won't say sick. I didn't feel sick, but I definitely didn't physically feel electric. I didn't feel excited to be there or anxious or any of it. It was more like boredom, and it's just and I know the world's only as boring as I am as far as like all that goes with perceiving it, but like on a bigger picture, there's definitely people who can relate with what I'm talking about, and it's not that hard to understand that everything really can be monotonous. And, it seems very simple, but it's also really difficult to create a simple system. And as long as you have something that gets you by, it's working, right? And small changes will make big changes, and eventually you can get somewhere totally different, but you have to be willing to use those muscles, and there are definitely ones we don't use if we're in a situation where we seem to be um, financially or imaginatively stuck, imaginatively, sorry. Uh, but that's uh, that's one way to look at it. That way, that mentality, I think, is more of a prison. It's more of an attachment to the expectation that the idea of the person you call yourself deserves more, right? And all of those things are instantly bring up moral, philosophical ideas that you can debate upon for a long time. And, to me, it's again, it's realizing that you have to find the intersection of selfishness and selflessness, and so you know if you understand the bigger picture of what you're doing, how you're helping the world, or how you could help the world, even if it's not directly through your job or your title or whatever, that's on you to kind of pay attention to, because those are dimensions of wealth, right? It's like you could have an extra motive to make the world a better place somehow at your job by helping people, just being a friend there for them, listening and all that. That's doing more than your title, and that's also enabling creativity on a level that a lot of people just aren't in the mood to even acknowledge. But you know you don't have to be a salesperson to feel like being a salesperson is the best way you can serve. It's like maybe that's how you're doing things right now, but maybe in the meanwhile you're making friends and you're learning how to code on the side or something. All these little small things that don't take your whole day, but they definitely take up a part of your system that you have going. And so at the end of the day, what I'm really trying to say is like if you can look at what you do and find a way to understand how you are necessary in the big picture, even if you think you're not, you're a channel of potential, and the reason you feel unfulfilled is because your garden is just unfulfilling, frankly. you know you'd feel a lot better about your garden if there were uh, just a bunch of uh, plants and healthy growth everywhere, right? Just like a savings account. A lot of people feel really embarrassed about having a zero on that department, and then there's people who are just like, it still feels like I'm not doing anything, but suddenly I have hundreds of dollars after a few months because I'm willing to try, and the feeling between zero and something is a lot more valuable than we take at face value. So try to, if you feel like you're one of these people who's just hopeless, make something, start creating something, give yourself an out, practice some charisma, or get into psychology a little bit. All sorts of different things you could try doing. But do something, because obviously what you're feeling is unfulfillment, and at its core, it's a creativity problem. It's nothing else. I mean, you could say I miss this and this about my life, or I never had this and this. And to me, what you're looking at when you think that way is uh, you're regretting things that are very picky. Like that's an extremely picky algorithm of software programming. Like it's not that I miss being a kid so much as I miss being a kid when everyone around me was in a good mood, when the weather was nice, when my mom took me to the park, we'd all be playing like that, and then afterward we'd go get a drink or something. It was like that's a whole lot of very specific circumstances. That's why it's not quite the same as when I go back to the same park years later when it's just me, or by some miracle have everybody there and then everybody be in a bad mood. It's like, yeah, this is the thing. Nah, but it's really interesting because it's like for those of you who are going through extreme heartbreak or any of that stuff, it's like that's step one, is realize how much you are attached to that is not what you think you are calling it. You know, you may think you miss this person, but you actually only miss the good times at the certain places and those kind of things. So I know this doesn't really seem like it's connected to the idea of the cog, but it is. You're looking at the things that make you unhappy about the way things are going is half of a deep nostalgia specific algorithm of the good old days, quote unquote, you know. And then the other half of it is there's a gap you haven't created a plug for, you know. If you feel like you need to talk to people to feel okay with who you are as a person and you need friends to be okay, then make time to go hang out with your friends. If you feel like you hang out with your friends too much, make time to be a recluse. You know, it's just creative exercises, boundaries, and creative fences, because parameters will give you more creativity than no parameters, hands down. And that took me a long time to really learn, but as I realize, if you'd like to do it the hard way and build your way backwards, um, you'll go down the path I went down. And it's just nothing but run-on sentences and wonderful ideas from the wells of eternal truth. But it's like, doesn't mean I can make it digestible, you know. But anyway, I don't know. Personally, I I'm a musician and I teach and I gig and I practice and compose and do all of these things, you know. Learning how to make all this stuff, all the video footage for the podcast and stuff has been a little side hobby, but nonetheless, I realize I'm a creator. But every single thing I do, if I were to be doing it for someone else, I would be tempted to think, oh, I'm just doing cog work, you know. But really, you're making the country move. You're keeping things optimal. And if you're if you're just a treat to be around, then, you know, you have such an avenue to give of yourself with. And I've really enjoyed being able to learn how to really communicate at my jobs. You know, it's like the whole point of all of this is to communicate. And so it's easier for me to sink into the form of how things move if I really want things to move, you know. I'm glad I took the time to explore life without structure in a sense, but you know, that's a structure if it was going to survive in its own right, you know. Whatever works works, but some things work better than others, more efficiently and with much more leverage. And yeah, deep down I used to hate being a cog, you know, and now I love it, and I want to be one of the best cogs that's ever been, and it really has changed my life entirely. You can flip your entire perspective upside down and get whatever you need whenever you need if you just believe you have that much creative imagination to make matter materialize. You know, it only will if it matters, though. You know the rules. Anyway, much love. Keep on. Don't give up. Find your way to another, just from one spot to another, man. One subtlety to the next. That's all this life is. So, yeah, man. Peace.